Happy Halloween week, everyone. It's PMC StarVox with some big news for SPT. Fans of the most popular mods may have already seen that several of them received large updates in the past week. Today, let's go over the big changes made to the SPT Realism mod, questing bots, MOAR, and even clues about an upcoming new version for Saint. Be sure to follow your favorite mods in the file base for update notifications and check their change notes to understand any alterations or new features. The Club StarVox Discord server and SPT Pub are great resources for discussion and up-to-date info for SPT mod development as well if you're into that kind of thing. In these spooky times, we often see comments and questions from users that are always answered by simply reading mod descriptions and change notes, so be sure to do your research.
Or else.
The SPT Realism mod actually got two recent updates, with the first being 1.4.6, the Halloween event update. Amongst the many changes and fixes was a new quest chain and event related to the hazard zones with new mechanics and everything. Therapist has the tasks, the last of which will only be available on Halloween Day and will be disrupted by any mods that affect boss spawns, so check the change notes to ensure it'll work for you. You'll find two new devices, the Ramu and Gamu, capable of collecting samples of the hazardous contaminants, both used for providing data to traders for large sums of money, and are unlocked with the new tasks. As part of the new mechanics, samples collected from hazard zones must be carried in a new safe container to protect oneself from exposure to their contamination. To run the new quest line, complete Therapist's sanitary standards and make use of the new equipment, but be careful. Toxic exposure is dangerous to your character and must be handled properly. Also, you're now able to individually mute the gas analyzer and Geiger counter with key toggles, which is nice. Their detection calculations were even improved to provide you with more accurate readings. Weapon handling and player movement changes have been effected, further refining Realism mod's approach to immersive control. The walking animation is now influenced by gun ergonomics, weight, and injuries to your character. Two new stats were added, weapon handling and aim stability, both playing a factor in how you'll actually control weapons in motion and when firing. Things should feel a bit heavier now, with the player character having to heft their equipment in a more realistic fashion, especially when using large and heavy weapons. What's more, weapon malfunctions have been reworked to prevent most new weapons from jamming suddenly and prematurely, especially when using reliable magazines, ammo, and attachments. In general, there should be no chance for malfunctions in guns over 95% durability, and the chances are still reduced down to 90% durability from what they had been before. Now, the calculations for malfunctions are such that jams should only occur at high heat levels from long bursts of fire while using less reliable furniture, which sounds great to me. Then came the Realism mod update version 1.4.7 just a few days ago with some additional fixes and more development to the new handling and movement systems. Inspired by the Tarkov IRL weapons handling mod from developer Adashi, Realism gun handling was given even more depth in the form of an additional cant to how the player character actually holds a gun. Affected by weight, stance, and even the size of the stock, guns will tilt inward and be nearer to or farther away from the shoulder. Wearing a gas mask or face shield will even cause weapons to cant in ADS with these changes, and they can all be toggled in the event that players want to also use the Tarkov IRL mod and preserve its own functions. It's really cool, by the way, and you should check it out. A final change of note in this update was the replacement of the patrol stance, amongst other stance changes from the previous update. It is now reminiscent of the resting stance in the Stalker games, making the weapon visible to the player camera to show that it is indeed simply at rest instead of having vanished entirely. I definitely appreciate this change. It's much more immersive and works better as a visible mechanic. You can, of course, still go into the Weapon menu's advanced settings and customize each stance for yourself. Questing Bots was updated to version 0.80 and came with a lengthy set of change notes as well, the first of which being that it now requires at least SPT 3.9.6 and waypoints 1.5.2 for those of you still using older builds. A large portion of this update concerns the Lightkeeper task section and how bots are handled when triggering and pursuing it. Should they select a quest on the Lighthouse Island, they will instantly become allied with Zriachi and his followers to prevent them from being killed outright. Passing the gate to the bridge will then temporarily align them with any bots present on the island for the duration of their stay, returning to normal when leaving through the same gate. This, of course, means that questing bots will not set off the mines along the bridge to ensure that they can actually act on their new objectives. Important to notice is that killing any bots as a player on the bridge or island will reduce your own Lightkeeper rep and disable your DSP coding, a consequence to remember. Fortunately, only PMCs level 35 or higher should be able to accept a Lightkeeper quest now, reducing the potential number of bots actually trying for them in a raid. Now, for players using Sane, these updates to bot alliances will not work for the current version available in the file base. It will only be compatible with the upcoming 3.1.2, which has not yet been released, but this hint serves as a solid announcement that a real update is indeed coming, so look forward to that. Additional features for this update to questing bots involves pathfinding remedies for bots actively pursuing their tasks, including some to fix problems around the command bunker and D2 on the reserve map. The notes seem to suggest that bots will camp D2 tasks now, fair warning. They'll also try to get over obstacles that interrupt their pathfinding while on a quest if they should become obstructed more reliably, now capable of greater recalculation once clear of any blockage. A new option was added to the questing bot's Espionage menu to toggle its AI limiter only when a certain number of bots are present in the current raid. Also, the number of vanilla quests that they must complete before trying to extract has been altered from 2 of 5 to 2 of 4, and custom mod quests from 6 of 12 to 3 of 8 to optimize their behavior. Be sure to read the change notes thoroughly to see all of the many fixes we haven't mentioned here, including an error message that will appear when NVIDIA Reflex is enabled while the mod is running. MOAR, the ultralight bot spawn mod, was updated recently too, 3 times in the last few days. This one isn't as big as the last two, but the mod itself has gained a lot more attention in Club StarVox spaces recently as a replacement for Swag plus Donuts while its development is resumed by another developer. If you hadn't already heard, Swag's primary dev has stepped away from the project indefinitely, and it wasn't known at first whether their mod would be taken over and supported into new versions of SPT. But we've since heard that another developer has indeed taken up the project and believe that it will continue on into the future. I've been using MOAR myself recently to benefit from its performance boost and learn about how it compares to the larger bot spawn mods with great success, and will likely keep it for some time. Swag plus Donuts is still one of the big 3 that I often referenced before though, and it gets a lot of attention, so there's no need to fear it being lost or losing ground just yet. So, MOAR first made the jump from version 2.1.0 to 2.2.0 just the other day, but came with some bugs that needed fixing, and Duardian Dev rapidly pushed 2.2.1 just hours later as a remedy. These releases were made to include a new feature, presets much like those found in Swag plus Donuts, which should appeal to many users of both mods. It's all config file controlled however, so there's no Espionage menu to use for this one. Any modifications have to be made outside of the game, but it's much easier than you might think. Refer to the mod page's description and comments for more information on that, or find us on Discord, we like that kind of thing. MOAR now works in ways that are closer to what most Donuts users might expect, and is even more efficient on system memory besides. All good things. This would be a great time to try the mod for anyone who had been wondering if they should or not, as it can be difficult to decide between bot spawn systems. I would certainly recommend it for users with limited hardware, as it could greatly improve performance and stability in raids. It sure did for me, and you saw how deeply I went into configuring Donuts. With minimal configuration, you can set yourself up for a very immersive experience with reliable spawns and regular activity as you play, all while retaining the ability to make it more or less intense as needed. What a busy time for SPT! There have been numerous other releases and updates in recent weeks, but these were mission critical and I had to discuss them with you before any more time could pass. Once again, make absolutely certain to read through mod descriptions, change notes, and even comments and discussions to learn everything you'll need to get them up and running properly. SPT developers put a lot of work into both function and documentation regarding their mods, so take advantage of the resources they provided. You can probably imagine that these updates have impacted the configuration I'm using for my upcoming progression series. I found myself making some last-minute updates and alterations these past 2 weeks. Once it's ready, I'll be releasing episodes regularly again, and I hope you're all looking forward to it. What mods do you have your eye on right now? Anything else you'd like me to cover here in particular? There's been a lot of activity, so I'm sure you have questions. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see what we can do. Thanks for watching.